plan to change the public views on the Board of Trustees may actually work. With the help of the newspaper and all this circus and elitists putting out nonstop bias and misinformed articles to sway elections, this campaign of fear may actually work. That's my fear. You've made some courageous decisions that have panned out well for us. Selecting Dr. Garcia as COD president was a great move for us all. Well, I would not be here standing up if it wasn't for that, okay? She communicates with us, she replies to emails, she has deep roots in this valley, and genuinely cares about our well-being, the community's well-being, and doing the right thing. She's a welcome breath of fresh air, so thank you. Trustee Olson, you asked her for civility, and most of the folks I'll talk to actually agree with you 100%. We do not want to complicate this already nasty mess caused by all these elitists and former administrators. But our interests and our community are top. We can't be held hostage by politics and fear. So I think a big problem is also that we don't have any face-to-face interactions anymore. We don't get to talk to each other. Everybody's through Zoom, and you don't really communicate with people that way. That's not how you do get things done. So I would love to see a return to campus. I would love to see more activities, graduation, all kinds of events that let us socialize and participate with each other and get things done and talk things over rather than this forum. This is not how you get things done. So I will go back in my office hour cave. I'll keep working hard on my cybersecurity program, okay? And I don't like popping up my head in these situations, but sometimes you have to, and this is one of them. So happy holidays. Nice to see you all. And there's a beautiful building, so good job to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any more public comment, Armando?
Yes, we have one more request to speak in person and 2 virtual requests. Next up in person, the request is by Dr. Veronica Doubt.
Hopefully this doesn't cut out too. I just thank you all for taking the time to let me be here. First of all, I just wanted to say, it's a pleasure to be here. I am coming to report about our food drive that we had last.
Taking my testimony. For those of you who don't know me, I was a 14-year member of the Palm Springs City Council. And as such, in 2004, I was on the committee that did the bid to have the campus brought, the COD campus brought to Palm Springs. And I gave this same testimony at the Bond Oversight Committee, but since President Garcia was not there, I just want to repeat some of the things that I said. First of all, as you now know, we were told that there was no feasibility study. And as we investigated, we realized that there was a feasibility study, even though Dr. Garcia said there was not a feasibility study. It's very, very concerning to the people in this city that $43 million of tax money has been spent on trying to build this campus, and we have nothing but a big empty hole in the middle of our city. As a bit of a little history, and we bid on the campus in 2004 and we were successful. We purchased a property in the north end of Palm Springs for $2 million from the federal government so that the campus could be built there. There was a lot of meetings, a lot of hype, and a lot of information given to us. There was, I believe, something like $6 million spent on that, and all of a sudden it was abandoned. We thought, okay, this is going to be another issue would be, where is that campus going to go? You purchased the mall and spent another $22 million buying the mall. and still we have nothing. And it was such a wonderful vision that you originally had for this. It was going to be more than just a campus. It was going to be an innovation center involving not only our student body from across this region, but also our businesses being directly involved in training and in hiring and in input into what was going to be taught at the school. It's a big disappointment to us, what's happened. It is every time I go by and look at that big empty lot, there's a sadness that we all worked very hard to pass Measure B and Measure CC. So it's not just something that we thought about and just didn't work on. We've all worked hard on this. So now what's happening is we're receiving all of these mixed messages, and the lack of transparency about not being in touch with our current city council about what's happening, all the mixed messages that we've gotten regarding whether it was a feasibility study, whether it's going to be completed, whether it may be put on hold for a certain period of time. None of that has been transmitted to our city council or to our citizens. And so I'm asking that you start off the
Sorry,
new
Ms.
year.
Foat, your time is up. Thank you so much. We appreciate your public comment and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Chair Perez, there are no more public comment speaking requests at this time.
Thank you, Armando. Okay, we're moving on to item 6, information, Board of Trustees. Item 6.1, redistricting update Citizens Advisory Oversight Committee joint meeting. At this time, I would like to call to order the Redistricting Citizens Advisory Oversight Committee joint meeting with the Desert Community College District Board of Trustees at 10:10 a.m. This joint meeting is subject to Brown Act regulations and requires a quorum of redistricting Citizens Advisory Oversight Committee members. I will now conduct a roll call of those members. Agustin Arriola. Agustin, are you there? Okay, Joe Mota.
Here, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Kay Hazen.
Good morning, here.
Good morning. Mike Gialdani.
Here, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Rafael Reyes.
Here, good morning.
Good morning. And is Agustin there?
I don't think I see him.
Okay. Thank you and welcome. At this time, I would like to invite Dr. Jessica Enders, Interim Executive Director of Institutional Advancement, to introduce our guest presenter.
Good morning, Chair Perez, Board of Trustees, Dr. Garcia, Executive Cabinet members, and guests. Thank you for the opportunity to present this information. Before I turn things over to Mr. Jim Priest, I would like to thank the members of our, let's see if we can get this to work. Can you advance the next slide? This one's not working. Oh, there we go. We'll skip that slide. Basically, just wanted to say thank you to our committee members for all of their hard work. As you, the board, are aware, there is a member for each of the area representatives, and so we have a total of 5 representatives, and they have been meeting to review some of these maps. And so today we have Jim Priest, who will be presenting from Best, and Krieger on the maps. And so with that, Jim, if you're ready, I will turn it over to you to guide us.
Thank you, Dr. Enders. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Congratulations, members of the Board of Trustees, honorable members of the committee, staff, and the public. Jim Priest, Best, and Krieger. It's a pleasure to be with you here. By way of background, when the board and the committee last met, we spoke about the nature of the issue redistricting-wise for the College of the Desert. Under federal law, your electoral areas have to be as nearly equal as possible. According to the 2020 census, your current total population throughout the entire community college district is just about dead on at 450,000 people. So divided among 5 trustee areas, that would come out to just about dead on 90,000 people total population per trustee area. Now, when we ran the 2020 census numbers against your current map with electoral trustee areas, we found that area 2 is over equal by about 6,000 people. Areas 3 and 4 are under equal by about 3,500 people, give or take. Areas 1 and 5 are pretty much still population balanced. There's a deviation of a few hundred people above equal, but nothing that is statistically significant. Really, the key issue is that area 2 is about 7% over equal, and then the other 2 are about high 3s to low 4% below equal. The way the demographics work as you apply it under the Federal Voting Rights Act is that leaves you a total deviation of right around 11%. Under federal law, the as nearly equal as possible rule does allow for some deviation from perfect equal population in each area by 10% or less. Because you're over a 10% deviation, that triggers the requirement to look at your boundaries and make some adjustments so that you can get that deviation under 10%. So with that, let's move on to the 2 options that the demographers have prepared for us. At the board's direction at our prior meeting, and then also as we have been discussing with the advisory committee, the demographer has prepared 2 map options for your consideration today. Option 1 is the one that makes less changes. Okay, we do have that up. Thank you, Dr. Enders. The merits of this option is that it changes the least amount of areas. It only affects area 2 and 3. And if you look at the map, the area it affects is that corridor. Dr. Enders, I don't know if we have a highlighting tool on this or not. If we do, that would be great. Or cursor will work, that's wonderful. If you look at the area just north of I-10 and north of area 3, the large part of area 3, that is where the fundamental change happens in this map. And as you can see, that whole green area north of 10 stretching all the way down to north of Cathedral City there along that corridor. That ends up moving about 4,000 people from trustee area 2 to trustee area 3. So it gets that 6,000 person overage in area 2 down to about 2,000. And then because area 3 is under by about 3,500, they can absorb that extra 4,000 people transfer. So what you effectively end up with, let me take a look at my numbers here specifically, is that area 2 is still about 2,000 people over equal, but the deviation is far less. And then area 3 ends up slightly over by a few hundred people from, the 3,500 or so under they were before. So it balances out areas 2 and 3 pretty well. Area 4 is not affected by this option. And area 4 still remains about 3,600 people under. But because we've dealt with the overage in area 2, it brings the total deviation down below 10%. The deviation is about 6.48%. And so that is acceptable. That is within Federal Voting Rights Act limits. So that's option 1. And again, the merit of the option is that it's a more incremental change. It only alters areas 2 and 3. One of the reasons we looked at this option of only moving areas 2 and 3 or changing areas 2 and 3 is because 2 and 3 also elect on the same cycle. Areas 2 and 3 will be electing, where's my note on this? I always get this one mixed up. Areas 2 and 3 will elect in 2024 at the next election. And then 1 and 4 would be in 2022. So by moving people from area 2 to 3, it's not going to affect, it'll obviously affect who they may vote for. Any redistricting will do that with certain voters because they're geographically shifting, but it will not affect when anybody votes. The election cycle and everybody will still vote at the same time. Nobody's affected there. So that is option number 1.
And Miguel, if you could bring up, thank you, next slide.
Sorry. Okay, so that's option number 1. And then there is option number 2. Option number 2 makes more changes, and I can outline those to you in more detail in a moment. The idea with this plan was to take the extra population number in area 2 and more evenly distribute it between areas 3 and 4. Again, areas 1 and 5 under either option are not affected in any way because 1 and 5 are already pretty balanced population number-wise. But what this would do is it would take the 6,000 overage out of area 2 and then more evenly distribute it to close the gap, the underage in area 3 of about 3,500 and the underage in area 4 by about 3,500. So I'll identify for you on the map where the principal changes are and where they are different from option 1. The area north of area 3, that's north of Interstate 10, the area closest to the college district's most western boundary doesn't change between option 1 and 2. Geographically, they are identical. But if you move to the right a little bit, so now you're north of Cathedral City, you'll see additional territory is moved from area 2 to 3 in that section. And the area, the little corridor right down there by Interstate 10 does not go into area 3, that would go into area 4. So that's one significant change. The other significant changes is if you go down to where Cathedral City is identified on the map. So, and if you look there, there is an area that you'll see highlighted in purple right there on that, just south of where it says Cathedral City. That is a strip that would go from area 3 to area 4. You'll see area 4 kind of juts out a little bit there. That's a significant shift because here's what ends up happening. You move 6,000 people. Actually, option 2 is even more aggressive. It moves almost 7,000 people from area 2 to area 3. Well, that's fine, but area 3 was only under by about half that. So now you've made a big overage in area 3. It's gone from way under to way over because of this big shift. So now to balance that out, you need to move people out of area 3 into area 4, and you take that excess and fill the deficit in area 4. So it's a bit of a cascade effect there. Move from 2 to 3 and then 3 to 4. And again, 1 and 5 are not affected by this at all. So what you end up with is about 7,000 people moving from 2 to 3 in that move north of Interstate 10. And then that area that juts out south of Cathedral City that would move from 3 to 4 moves about 3,500 people. So what you've done now is you've taken 7,000 out of area 2. You'll leave area 2 actually a little bit under equal by a few hundred people. And then what you've done is you've taken that 7,000 and you've split it almost evenly between 3 and 4. The result ends up being a very low deviation. You've almost perfectly redistributed the population between areas 2, 3, and 4 in that case. Deviation is down below 2% total. That's good because it just gets the balancing more thoroughly done. There may also be some long-term benefits. When we talk about redistricting, we're not always talking about adjusting a boundary map. It's rare, but I have had some circumstances even with this cycle where we've looked at the numbers for the agency and the agency's map still says population balance. They were, there wasn't much shift. or they balanced it so well 10 years earlier that even with some regular shifts in population, it wasn't enough to throw them off on a deviation more than 10%, which means they didn't have to adjust their map that next 10-year cycle. They could continue using what they had. A more thoroughly balanced map like option 2 may create that possibility for College of the Desert in 10 years. If your deviation now is down below 2%, it may be that population shifts in the next 10 years aren't going to get you much beyond a 10% deviation, at which point you basically adopt a resolution saying our map remains population balanced and we don't have to adjust boundaries. We don't have to do that. So there could be some long-term benefit in doing this more thorough balancing of the population. The cons for this, however, are that unlike option 1, where you're only moving people between area 2 and 3, which means you're not affecting the election cycle for anybody, this moves people from 3 to 4. And I might add, actually, there is a very small area. I should have pointed this out earlier. If you look down in area 4, there's a little purple area toward the bottom. It kind of, actually, not the purple area. It's a little green area that kind of sticks into area 4. That's it. Perfect. That area right there would move from District 4 to District 3. That would only move about 150 people according to the data. But my understanding is the demographer did that to better conform to the municipal boundaries down there in Palm Desert. So again, the 4 to 3 move down there in that corner would not move a lot of people. The really big shift is if you go up to that area that sticks out right near the number 3 there. Yeah, that would be the really big shift. And then also I would note that up along I-10, that little corridor near area 3, the part that's just north of Cathedral City on the 10, to the southeast a little bit there, right there. That does not go from 2 to 3, that goes from 2 to 4. The demography says that moves like 8 people. So that's not really a major significant shift. The demographer, again, did that just to kind of keep existing lines together there. So by moving people from area 3 to 4 and area 4 to 3, or 2 to 4, is you are going to be shifting when some people elect, not just who they elect, but when they elect. People moving from area 3 to 4, and again, that's the biggest shift there down there by the downtown Cathedral City area. They would actually probably benefit. I mean, that's a policy call the district would have to make, but they would actually elect earlier. They're in area 3, which means they would normally elect next in 2024. By moving them to area 4, they would elect in 2022. So they get an earlier election as a result. So the impact on their ability to be politically heard in election may not be all that bad, because again, they're not waiting. They'd actually have an earlier opportunity to elect. Those people moving from 2 to 4, it would be the same thing. Those 8 households, those 8 population, they would also elect earlier. And so the impact is not as drastic to them. That little group down there in the left corner or bottom left corner that goes from 4 to 3, those 138 people there, thank you. They would be the ones who would be affected to go to a later election. By staying in area 4, they would elect next year. If they move to area 3, the next election they would participate in would be 2024. So they are the population who would actually be delayed in voting for a trustee at the next time. And again, the other 2 shifts from 2 to 4 and area 3 to 4, they'd actually elect earlier. And so that's pretty much the 2 options in a nutshell. Next slide, please. And happy to talk with you about the maps. Just wanted to go over a few last items here. Communication plan, next steps, press release and announcing public hearings, social media posts, updating the website. I'll defer to Dr. Enders on that, but my understanding is that has all been done. We do have the website up. We are populating it. Social media and press releases are out as well, but again, I'll defer to Dr. Enders on that. Can you provide any details there?
Absolutely, my pleasure, Jim. Yes, a press release went out announcing the joint meeting for today, and we will have additional press releases going out to announce the public hearing that is going to be on January 21st. All committee members have been provided with a social media icon that they can use to help share, and we've been sharing on our site as well. We do have a website available directly from the College of the Desert homepage, and we also have an opportunity for the public to engage with the committee members directly. So if they'd like to get updates, they can submit their email address and we'll be communicating with them. And so those next steps, if we can go to the next slide. We'll be promoting through those avenues our future meetings, which again, the next one is going to be our public hearing on January 21st, followed by January 28th and February 2nd. We will have our regular Citizens Advisory Committee meetings, and so the public is welcome to attend, and those are held virtually, and we will allow for public feedback if there's any comments on the maps. And then hopefully to meet our deadline, February 17th, we'll be bringing back to the Board of Trustees our resolution for adoption of a final map selection.
Thank you, Dr. Enders. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the board or the committee may have. I apologize in advance, but I do have to warn you, I do have a hard stop at 11 o'clock today, but for the next half hour, I'm yours.
Thank you, Dr. Enders, and thank you, Mr. Priest. Is there any questions from the board? No?
Mr. Chair, not question, just comments. I really want to thank everyone for all their hard work. I want to thank the folks that have been serving on this advisory committee for volunteering and taking the time. I know you all have busy schedules. So really want to thank all of you for your participation and help in this most important and critical process. Thank you.
Definitely ditto. Would any speakers in attendance from the public who wish to address this item please come forward? Or comment now in the chat field or select the raise your hand button to speak. Each speaker is allowed a maximum of 3 minutes. 15 minutes shall be the maximum time for public speakers on this item, regardless of the number of speakers. At the discretion of the majority of board, these time limits may be extended. Armando, is there any speakers?
Chair Perez, there are no public attendees wishing to speak at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you. At this time, I would like to invite the chair of the Redistricting Citizens Advisory Oversight Committee, Mr. Joe Mota, to share the next steps of the redistricting process.
Yeah, so we'll be going over, good morning, sorry. We'll be going over everything. We had a very, at our last meeting, a lot of us were very integrated in regards to having a lot of questions, wanting some additional information. And so I know it was going to get presented to us, and then we'll have the meetings and hopefully have an outcome from the looks of it and how we're going at it. It looks like we're staying on track, and we might be able to complete this a little bit earlier, but still we want to be able to be detailed about how we go through this process and make sure we create and make the best decision to propose to the board on what we decide. We are really looking into each area, how it goes, and we don't really want to affect much, but we also do want to create the change that we need so that who we serve as for COD, our students, are very well balanced, so that representation is accurate.
Thank you, Mr. Mota. And as stated, the next joint meeting of the Redistricting Citizen Advisory Committee and the Desert Community College District Board of Trustees will be held on January 21st, 2022. At this time, I adjourn the joint meeting at, let's say it's 10:31 a.m. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Enders. And thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Pleasure to meet with you.
We will now continue with the regular meeting of the Desert Community College District Board of Trustees. Item 7, reports. Associated Students of College of the Desert, Ascot. We have our Ascot President, Amaris Guzman. Amaris, are you there?
Hi, yes, I am.
Great, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Mr. Chair, trustees, Dr. Garcia, executive cabinet, and guests. My name is Amaris Guzman, and I am the new Ascot president. I was previously Ascot's vice president. However, Hassan recently resigned, and I have taken over the president position. I look forward to leading Ascot through the rest of the term. Ascot has been quite busy since the last board meeting. Committees, both Ascot and COD, are running smoothly. We are experiencing some challenges with having vacant positions, Ascot positions. However, we are looking forward to filling those positions in due time. The Ascot Events Committee has been successful this semester in running several events, 2 safe in-person events, and 1 ongoing virtual club. Our most recent in-person event we had was a drive-in movie showing Black Widow on December 3rd that students were able to attend and take part in from the safety of their own cars. Ascot has also successfully held a book club throughout this fall semester, which met bi-weekly. We plan on continuing the club throughout the spring semester, as well as an all-new book. There are a number of events we are working on for the upcoming semester, both virtual and in person. We will meet over the winter intersession to continue the planning process. Overall, it has been an amazing semester, and I'm excited for what we will accomplish over the next semester. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all today. I look forward to seeing what the future holds as we continue to work on behalf of the students and community. I hope you all have a great holiday. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me through email at pascod@collegeofthedesert.edu. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm happy to hear that those events went very smoothly and there was a good attendance. Awesome, congratulations on your new position, Amaris. Thank you. Moving on to Auxiliary College of the Desert Foundation. And it's my understanding that a written report was provided by Catherine Abbott, Executive Director of the College of the Desert Foundation. No? Okay. Okay, moving on to the California School Employees Association, CSEA. We have Marbella Ordaz, CSEA representative, whenever you're ready.
Buenos dias, good morning, Board of Trustees and President Dr. Garcia. We hope everyone is ready for and is safe this winter holiday break. Currently, the district and CSEA have a tentative agreement on the vaccine mandate incentive being offered to all employees that have submitted proof of vaccination or have been exempted due to medical or religious reasons. To be eligible for the incentive, all members should submit their vaccination proof or request their exemption via the website form before January 31st, 2022. CSEA and the district have begun negotiations for the spring COVID-19 effects MOU, and we have submitted our first proposal to the district. The proposal is very similar to the fall MOU in that we are continuing to request that those who have already had exemptions from returning to in-person work be able to continue through the end of the fiscal year. In addition, CSEA reiterates the need of the district to provide adequate PPE for those members requesting it and re-identifies the acceptable methods for proof of vaccination. The CSEA negotiation team also requests that if the district closes any location and sends workers home that cannot perform their functions from home, they not be subject to loss of any benefits or wages. The district will be taking the MOU to the executive cabinet to review before setting up any follow-up meeting. From CSEA, we wish everyone safe travels and happy holidays this winter break and a happy new year. De parte de CSEA, les deseamos a todos felices fiestas y un próspero año nuevo. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to the College of the Desert Adjunct Association, CODA. Michael Gladys, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, whenever you're ready.
Chairman Perez, Superintendent President Garcia, members of the board, and members of our college community. We're pleased to report that the district and CODA have come to an agreement regarding Article 14 reemployment. We wish to commend the district bargaining team led by Dean Pappas, including Terry Wilson, Cody McCabe, Sarah Butler, and Steve Hallman, for their openness, professionalism, and collegiality. We look forward to working with this excellent team in the months to come. An important member of the CODA team, David Bayshore, will be relocating this spring, and we want to celebrate all that David has contributed to College of the Desert during his 10 years as president of CODA. When David started, adjuncts were allowed only 6 hours of flex credit, and office hours where an adjunct teaching 2 3-unit courses was just a half hour a week. Starting pay was about $45 an hour, and there was no procedure for reemployment. David never gave up on representing the needs of adjuncts, and by the end of his presidency, Article 14 on reemployment had been added to the bargaining agreement, office hours had more than doubled, and flex hours had increased from 6 to 12 hours per semester. Despite David's successes, adjuncts are far from parity with full-time faculty. Adjuncts with identical credentials are still paid less than half for teaching the same courses, not to mention the nearly $18,000 a year in benefits given to full-time faculty on top of their salaries when adjuncts have no benefits at all. Parity is affirmed by the statewide academic senate and called for in Assembly Bill 1269, but parity is just common sense. Equal pay for equal work. Remember, there's no diversity without equity, and there can be no equity without parity. As discussion continues on AP 7120, adjuncts have encountered one roadblock after another in our efforts to make the application of this policy less ambiguous and more consistent. The hiring needs of adjuncts need to be addressed. Last Friday, the CPC dismantled the COVID task force, an important committee where concerns regarding COVID-19 could be voiced. COD needs a way for the college community to articulate COVID concerns. The dysfunctional safety committee is not the answer. CODA urges the creation of a COVID forum where faculty, staff, and students can communicate their concerns to leadership. In spring 2022, COD will allow face-to-face classrooms to fill to capacity. CODA opposes this policy. Since the vaccine mandate gives everyone the option of weekly testing instead of vaccination, our campus will be mixing vaccinated with unvaccinated in enclosed spaces. Filling classrooms to capacity makes CDC recommended physical distancing impossible. This pack the classrooms policy appears to place increased revenue ahead of personal safety and budgetary advantage ahead of the well-being of students, faculty, and staff. CODA urges the board to reverse this unsafe and self-serving policy. As we approach year's end, we look forward to the chance in the new year to replace roadblocks with bridges, to move beyond inflexibility and embrace our diversity. We are stronger, we are better when we listen to each other, understand each other, seek common ground, and work together to create a community of acceptance. Submitted respectfully, Dr. Catherine Levitt, President of CODA.
Thank you, Michael. Now we're moving on to the College of the Desert Faculty Association. CODFA, Oceana Collins, CODFA President, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, trustees. Good morning, College of the Desert community. CODFA would like to end the year by acknowledging all of the hard work of our members and everyone working at College of the Desert. Some really great things have been happening at the college, including food drives, registration drives, public outreach campaigns, and of course, the day-to-day operations of the college carried out by our caring and able faculty, staff, and administration. As we celebrate this holiday season, we have a lot to be thankful for. Moving into winter and spring, let's continue to do the good work and also keep in mind the things that are important, such as delivering quality education and taking care of our community. Our responsibility also includes creating a safe learning environment. So let's make that happen by continuing to follow safety protocols. CODFA's spring MOU with the district is now signed and complete. The negotiation team spent a month and a half crafting proposals and counter proposals. We are pleased with some of the terms the district agreed to in the MOU, such as compensation for working with students outside of our contractual obligation, and the option to continue office hours remotely. Unfortunately, we were not able to secure all of the safety measures we wanted for our members. A particular concern is the district's denial to limit the size of in-person classes. Moving forward, we strongly encourage the deans and supervisors to work with individual faculty members to guarantee the safety concerns are being heard and accommodated. This is not just a safety issue for faculty, but for everybody working and learning on campus. CODFA stands behind our CODA colleagues in their ongoing battle for parity and equity in their contract. As we move ahead, it would be great to see CODA and the district working together to create a more just and equitable compensation schedule for our adjunct faculty. CODFA would also like to honor the work of our CODA colleague, David Bayshore. David served as president of CODA for many years and secured many important rights for our adjunct faculty, including reemployment rights and adjunct compensation for office hours and committees. We wish David all the best in his next adventures. Finally, CODFA wishes everyone and their families a very merry holiday season and a happy, healthy new year. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Oceana. Moving on to Academic Senate. Dr. Dozier, I think I saw you here.
There we go.
Good to see you.
Good
Whenever
to see
you're ready.
you all. Can you hear me? Okay, hi. Oh my, I'm gonna have to start bringing glasses. As always, despite the complex world we live in and the ongoing challenges of teaching and providing services with uncertainty, both online and in person, College of the Desert faculty and staff deliver. I was privileged to be part of the food drive last Friday at Indio that Dr. Dowd already discussed. It was positive, impactful, and why I love this college and the community we serve. Theater students put on an online Zoom production of You Make My Frame Shake in November. The Communication Studies Department hosted their third virtual speech tournament on Friday, December 3rd. This event gave students the opportunity to compete with other communication studies students with an informative or persuasive speech. This semester was even more exciting as we welcomed students from the CSU San Bernardino Palm Desert campus. 11 students completed the college's first Innovation and Invention workshop this fall. I3, Invention and Inclusive Innovation, is a pilot program for from the Chancellor's office. COD's version, Innovation, Development, Entrepreneurship, Action, which we call IDEA, was a 10-week process in identifying local problems and understanding the needs of stakeholders in solving these problems before developing tangible solutions. Students addressed student engagement in online learning, that was Ireland's group, and the need for increased mental health support for college students. We will pilot 37 sections of high-flex courses across 3 campuses in the spring. High-flex will allow students to choose their attendance modality, thus allowing them flexibility throughout the semester to complete their courses, whether they can attend in person, virtually during class time, or asynchronously on their own time. We are confident this flexibility will help our students reach their goals even as their day-to-day lives may be unpredictable. And starting next week, students will have better information to help them complete placement in both math and English as the self-placement tools will come online, allowing them to determine what levels will meet their needs and ensure that we are in compliance with AB 705. Despite our continued successes, the college continues to face great challenges, and I must address one here. At last month's board meeting, it was implied that I was bullying at least one member of this board. Why is asking hard questions I ask on behalf of the 500 faculty I represent every semester, questions I ask as a member of this community, a community of approximately 500,000 full-time residents, and questions I ask as a voter in Trustee Wilson's area, seen as a form of bullying. When I sent this report to my fellow colleagues, I heard from one faculty they did not agree with me, with my statements here, and over 50 who said I was representing them. I am not a bully. I am open to all points of view, as I have proven to my colleagues many times in the past, yet only one said I was wrong. My right under all those labels is to ask hard questions, questions this board should be more than willing to answer without feeling attacked, without attacking each other, something I also witnessed as well last month, and without deflecting those answers to the college administration or making the flawed argument that because we violated our own approved policies in the past, it is acceptable to just do it again. Perhaps you feel attacked because you're making choices based on politics and behind-the-scenes deals. Perhaps you feel attacked because you're being unwise with my money as a taxpayer. Perhaps you feel attacked because perhaps you're on the defensive because you know that I have a vote next November. The guilty feel attacked when asked hard questions. Trustworthy and transparent stewards of public resources don't feel attacked when asked hard questions. They answer them and do not place blame on others for their deeds. If you are worthy of representing this community, and I remind you that you all represent all of us per your own board policy, then face the hard questions with grace and honesty instead of accusations and deflections. Have a good holiday.
Thank you, and have a nice holiday as well. Okay, now going over to the governing board, we'll start off with student trustee Olson.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, trustees, Dr. Garcia, executive cabinet, and members of the public. It has been a busy past month. I wrapped up the book club on behalf of Ascot, leading our final discussions on the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. We had some really amazing, insightful conversations. I was also able to attend and assist with Ascot's drive-in movie event. It went very well, and I want to thank everyone who made it possible. The other Ascot members, Anna and Danny at the Office of Student Life, Carlos Maldonado, and the maintenance and operations teams. I have finished all my finals and am officially done with my fall classes. I'm happy to say they all went well. I'm looking forward to the break. Happy holidays to everyone. I hope you all have a safe and fun break and a chance to rejuvenate. That is all for my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Wilson?
Thank you. Chairman Perez, I want to congratulate you again on becoming chair. I know you're going to do a great job and know that we are here to support you. I'd also like to thank everyone for all the support I've received this past year. It doesn't seem that long ago when the election results of November 2020 suddenly propelled me from clerk of the board to the chair position and then you to vice chair, and where we also welcomed B. Gonzalez as our new trustee. This past year has indeed been one for the books. Our previous president, without warning, announced his retirement. We went on the search for a new one during a pandemic with closed campuses and everyone shifting to online learning. Projects were placed on hold. We had a sudden drop in enrollment. The street fair paused, and we moved to regular Zoom meetings. We now have President Garcia, who has done an incredible job given the challenges and unfortunate and unnecessary mudslinging, but she is an experienced president who knows how to navigate through the college system as we work together to climb our way out of this pandemic and move forward. It's been a long year, and I thank the communities and the college community and students and the many friends for their continued support. I'm sorry. It's been a long year. Together, we have a lot of work to do the next year on behalf of our students and our communities. So thank you all again, That concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Trustee Wilson, and thank you for the exceptional service that you gave as board chair this past year. I could not imagine being the chair during the peak of the pandemic. Moving on to Trustee Gonzalez.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. And just want to say again, good morning to everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning. And of course, congratulations, Mr. President, and thank you very much, Trustee Wilson, for your service. I just was listening to your remarks, and it almost sounds like a horror movie, right? Just so many things that have occurred. And, you know, I also want to thank you, and I'm grateful for your leadership during that time, as I know that it was not easy. So I know the holidays are upon us. I hope you're all done with your Christmas shopping, because I think all the shipping deadlines have come and gone. I'm not completely ready yet, but I'm trying. But I do want to take this opportunity to just wish everyone a happy holiday. And just, I hope that you get some much needed rest, some time off, and that you're able to spend time surrounded by your loved ones. With that also, I know there was a lot of comment this morning, and myself as a trustee, I appreciate it regardless of what the opinion is. And, you know, I just want to say that, you know, we welcome all your comments. Believe it or not, some of the concerns that have been brought up are of my concern as well. I had a chance to listen to one of the speakers who was talking about, you know, the bonds and oversight, and just want you to know that I'm curious as well where all of that bond funding has been spent. So just want to know that some of us do agree with a lot of your concerns. Also, there was a comment, you know, regarding the campus in Cathedral City and the fact that it has so many challenges, and why those challenges were not initially identified. And again, that's a great question. And I think that, you know, I know I want to know the answer to that too. So I just want to thank everyone, regardless, you know, of how you feel. I appreciate all the positivity. I've now had a chance to work with Dr. Garcia for 4 months. And I know a lot of this took place before her 4-month and my 1-year tenure now. And I'm sure that, you know, we're going to keep working diligently to represent all of you. And I know Dr. Garcia is extremely committed to providing this college with leadership. And if we needed any more testament from just so many people who have reached out and just raved about the qualifications of our new president, I was able to attend the beautiful reception that Cal State San Bernardino had for Dr. Garcia, and just hearing so many folks in the room just speak so greatly of our new president superintendent, and just, you know, give all of us the accolades for selecting her. And, you know, I just want to say that I am very grateful in my first year as a trustee. I've learned a lot. I've seen a lot. I've experienced a whole lot. And, you know, this is just the beginning. And again, I'm just grateful for all of you, my colleagues here, all of the trustees, student trustee, and thank you, Dr. Garcia, for your leadership. And again, happy holidays to everyone. Be safe, and I hope to see you in January. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Gonzalez. Trustee Yant, you ready?
Thank you. My comments may be long today, but I intend to continue until I've covered everything I need to say.
By all means.
This week, I received a letter from our foundation. I'd like to read the letter, but in the interest of time, we'll paraphrase the letter. This went to our donors. Since he was a young man, Levi Miller wanted to be a highway patrol officer. He joined the CHP, where he met Clayton Mays, now a professor of criminal justice on campus. Clayton encouraged Levi to enroll at COD and complete his AA degree in criminal justice here. He went on for his bachelor's and master's to become a first-generation college graduate. Now a captain with the CHP, he teaches criminal justice here and encourages others to enroll at COD. It's for students like Levi Miller that our foundation raises funds for our students, and I endorse their praise of Levi and their efforts. On another matter, I'm saddened and heartbroken to receive a flyer in my mail about the campus, promises made, promises broken, letters to the editor calling for openness, and statements made this week's Bond Oversight Committee. This campus should not and is not about this. This past week, I read in the local newspaper that the campus had terminated the services of our consultant for the hotel project for the Palm Springs campus. In everything I've learned about serving as a trustee, the phrase has been no surprises. I want to say that as a trustee for the Palm Springs area, I learned about this action in the newspaper. And subsequent calls from community members, I was not given the courtesy of advance notice, so I could not answer questions as to who made the decision or who was consulted. In articles I've read in the local newspaper, it's been said that proper planning was not done for the Palm Springs campus. This weekend, I went through old files and found references to a few documents. There appears to be a difference in the requirements for planning for a new campus and planning for an off-campus facility. Our 2017 140-page master plan seems to meet that requirement. Furthermore, we have the services of MOS, a nationally recognized project management company that has guided this project. I'm anxious to hear Mac's comments later today because I'm at a loss to understand how the newspaper is reporting that planning was not done. When letters to the editor and comments at the board oversight committee ask for transparency, I think they're asking to be heard. Promises were made and we need to show forward movement on those promises. I found an April 2018 press release from the campus quoting then board president Becky Broughton. She said, long ago, the district made a promise to West Valley residents to provide a campus closer to where students live and work. We are excited today to move the permanent Palm Springs campus one step closer to reality. And I found an FAQ distributed in a press packet stating, construction for these projects is projected to be completed in spring 2022. It appears we have a lot of work to do and to get to the business of what this college should be and is about. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Trustee Yant. Trustee Stefan.
First off, I'd like to thank Trustee Wilson. Having been the chair many times in the past, I realize how very, very difficult your position is. I don't know that the public really understands the pressure that the board members go under. It can be extremely taxing because we are the front line for the public. That's what we're elected to be. And many times, we don't manage the college. We oversee, we set the policy and we look at the procedures to make sure they adhere to the policy. And then we turn it over to the president of the college to manage. And this can be extremely, extremely difficult. And Trustee Perez, I wish you all of the best this next year. And as your vice chair, I will be there to support you and support the college any way that I can. I alluded to the fact that it's difficult being a trustee. We try to be transparent in all things. Sometimes we don't know things that hit the press, and sometimes things in the press we all know are misleading. We always have to be looking at the fiscal bottom line. Are we being fiscally responsible? Are we giving the right communication to the public from what we know? Are we able to listen to the public? And listening is key. It's extremely difficult, but today I felt very, very blessed in hearing from Dr. Dowd about what transpired over in Indio, my community, how many people were served. And I want to thank all individuals who have remembered that this season is one of giving and serving. A lot of times we think it's just about Santa Claus and getting gifts and what we want. We have to remember that as trustees, we are elected to a term of service, and that service is to our communities, but most of all to our students and their student success. So there are a few things that I tried to accomplish this last month. I tried to do some online webinars and trainings in looking at community college students being shut out of state universities, looking into the diversity, equity, inclusion that's coming down from the state and from the nation. And before I conclude, I do want to say that David Bayshore, you'll be missed, but we know that we will be trying to continue on with the guidance that you have tried to give this college. Let us, in our own joy and gratitude for all of the blessings that we have, remember to be humble and remember in our hearts those that have lost everything in tornado-devastated areas this last week. And remember those that have lost loved ones over the past year from COVID and from many other natural disasters that have transpired. I wish each and every one of you a happy holidays and a wonderful new year. And that concludes my comments.
I'd like to start off by again reiterating my gratitude to Trustee Wilson for serving as board chair this past year. I know it wasn't easy, but you made a lot of great, difficult decisions, and I appreciate your leadership. I also want to extend a congratulations to our very own Dr. Neary for being selected as Santa Ana College's, Community College's new superintendent president. We're going to miss you, but understand that you're going to do bigger and better things at Santa Ana College. I attended the Csca holiday luncheon a few days ago, and it was nice to talk to folks, shake their hands, and just tell them how grateful we are for all their efforts and all the things that they've done to make our campus keep going throughout the pandemic. It was nice to see people in person for the first time in I don't know how long. And a few weeks ago, we met with Palm Springs officials to clarify some of the stuff that's been seen in the media. And I want to reiterate my commitment as chair to the city of Palm Springs, and we'll continue to work with all their stakeholders. A couple of nights ago, we were giving information we had previously not been privy to on the campus, despite what has been said in the press. This information is now being reviewed. Congratulations to our college for a successful food drive. Dr. Doubt, that student testimonial that you gave, that's what it's all about. It's easy to get caught up with all the other outside noise, but that right there, that's the bee's knees right there, man. That's really what it's all about. That's what we're here for. So thank you for all your efforts and all you did and all that was involved in that. Happy holidays, everyone. I hope you have a nice Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa. Yeah, thank you. And now President Garcia, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, all. Thank you so much for joining us. I would like, next slide. I would like to start first by thanking everyone who works here at College of the Desert for all you do. I'm sincerely privileged to serve along you and privileged to serve our students. I thank the board for all they do, and I thank the community for wanting to work with us and for requesting information, and I look forward to working with all of you. I'm going to start with a statement. It is important to reiterate our commitment to building a new campus in West Valley, specifically Palm Springs. I would like to reinforce that the trustees and I are committed to making this a reality. In my nearly 4 months of being in this position, I have utilized this time to gather information regarding our expansion plans and bond projects across the entire Coachella Valley. Today, you will have an opportunity to listen to a presentation that includes an update. As it relates to Palm Springs, through my initial analysis, we have identified some components of a needs assessment, some components of a feasibility study. I would like to communicate that I had publicly stated that we had not identified student and industry data, which is one component of a feasibility study, and that it would be necessary to conduct this analysis before proceeding with planning. However, a consultant emailed a COD staff member on December 15th. A 2016 needs assessment that was complete as part of the master plan. So therefore, as a result of receiving this information 2 days ago, I pulled COD Board Agenda Item 11.02, number 13 Cambridge West Partnership Contract. I'm currently reviewing the document that was emailed, and on the initial analysis, it appears to reflect some components of the feasibility study we need to proceed with planning. It is important that I state that I previously requested any needs assessment or feasibility studies from COD team members several times. I'm relying on the expertise from the team members that are here to support me. It is important that I take the time necessary to review the information so that I proceed accordingly and fulfill the responsibility that I have been entrusted with, which is to serve you, the students, the employees, and the community well. I was informed that that no needs assessment or feasibility study for that site had ever been completed. Therefore, I proceeded with making the public statements that I have. And I own them. But obviously, they were a result of the information that I was provided. We continue to be committed and transparent with the community and to move forward together. I look forward to 2022, and I thank you all for your commitment, for your questions. Next slide. I want to congratulate Dr. Annabelle Neri for being named the new president for Santa Ana College. She served this district for about 14 years, did tremendous work. We honor her, we wish her the best, and we will miss her, and I look forward to working with her as a colleague in the same role, obviously at a different institution. Next slide. I also congratulate Dr. Mark Sakovic, and he was named Monterey Peninsula College Interim Superintendent President. So I also look forward to working with him as a colleague in that role. He has served this district about 3 years, and I'm extremely grateful, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you for your service. Next slide. I would like to congratulate, as previously stated, David Bayshore. He served this district as an adjunct communications faculty member for about 15 years, and he also served, as stated, for CODA, president. And we thank him for his service and wish him the best as well. I want to thank everyone that attended the reception that President Dr. Tomas Morales from California State University San Bernardino hosted in my honor. I thank his team. I thank the community, the friends that attended. And frankly, I'm extremely grateful for having the opportunity to interact with colleagues, with friends, and with the community. Next slide. Csca Luncheon has been mentioned. It took place on December 15th. Thank you, Trustee Wilson and Trustee Bettis, for attending. It was incredible to be around our CSCA team members. They're amazing, and they're valued tremendously for all they do. And I hope that we're able to have many more functions like this one to honor you for everything that you do every day. The energy was amazing and frankly filled my soul to be around you. Next slide. This slide includes some of the activities that took place since the last board meeting. I'm going to highlight two of them. The student holiday food drive at Indio site, that is a picture there from some of us that were there. I want to make sure that I acknowledge Dr. Dozier, and she is pictured in this picture, and thank her for helping us, and especially Brian for making sure that 15 turkeys were cooked. We distributed 15 turkeys and sites and ran out of that food very quickly. Grateful for every employee that participated in that event. It was amazing to serve our community in that manner and look forward to doing it again. And I want to end by stating that yesterday I had the opportunity to have dinner with our women's soccer coach, Garrett, and his support team, and our women's soccer team. And it was incredible. The students of this institution are amazing, and they're grateful for the opportunity that they're granted here. And at the end of the day, that is what it's about. We're here to serve our students, and we're here to do the best for them. Next slide. I want to wish everyone a happy and safe holiday. I am grateful for being here, grateful for, frankly, having everything that I have, and looking forward to spending this time that we will all have as a break to be with my family, to re-energize, and to come back in 2022 and give you all I have to give. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia, and we know you will. Moving on to item 8.01, the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be considered for approval by single vote without discussion. Any board member may request that an item be pulled from the consent agenda to be discussed and considered separately in the action agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Question.
Trustee Yant, yes, sir.
It's just a question for clarification. I see 11.2 that includes I think a contract which the vice president will be talking about as an information item. Am I correct? So are we getting the information after the vote?
Dr. Garcia, can you answer that question, please?
Yes. You're referring to the Pacific Lightwave?
Yes.
Yes. So we will hear a presentation from Vice President Ramont on that item, on those two items, which is two contracts.
Before our vote?
If Chair Bettis allows us, we could do that.
Before our vote, I think would be appropriate.
So if that's appropriate, should I pull that item then?
Yes, sir, if you don't mind.
If that's the best way to handle it, it's fine.
So Trustee Yant is asking that 11.02, is that correct, be pulled from the agenda for discussion?
Yeah, simply because I think we should hear the presentation before we vote on it.
Agreed. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a second from Trustee Stefan. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Chair, sorry
Yes, sir.
sorry to interrupt. The way this part of the agenda works is you're taking a motion to adopt the consent agenda, then you're going to get a second, and then the item 11.02 can be pulled.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
I couldn't unmute
apologize, it's
myself
fine.
quick enough.
Thank you for bearing with me, everybody. It's gonna take me probably a couple meetings for me to understand the process. So, let me see here, let me try to get back to where I was at. Okay, so is there a motion to approve the agenda, the consent agenda as presented?
So move.
Is there a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Motion by trustee Stefan, second by trustee Wilson. President Garcia, can we get a roll call vote?
Sure.
Sorry, sir.
Wait,
This is where you would do the
wait.
discussion, and the discussion would include you pulling that item.
Oh, okay,
11.02.
I see.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
Here I make the motion full 11.02. 11.2, I think it is.
Okay, is there a second?
11.02.
Don't need a second.
You don't need a
Just,
second?
No, sir.
Sorry about that. Okay, and I'd also would like to pull item 9.01 for individual consideration. Is there any other items that anybody would like to pull? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Carlos, can you walk me through what the next step in this process would be?
Absolutely, sir. You would just say, are there any objections to approving the consent item minus 9.01 and 11.02?
Thank you. Is there any objections to approving the consent agenda minus item 9.01 and item 11.02? Okay, hearing and seeing none, is there a roll call vote now?
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you.
Student trustee Olson,
Yes.
trustee Wilson, trustee Gonzalez,
Aye.
trustee Yant,
Yes.
trustee Stefan,
Yes.
trustee Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, moving on to item 13.01, action agenda. Items pulled from the consent agenda for separate discussion and consideration. Do I have a motion to approve 9.01 and 11.02 as presented?
You would do them individually, sir.
Oh, do I have a motion to approve 9.01 as presented?
So move.
Thank you. We have a motion by trustee Stefan and a second by trustee Wilson. Any discussion? So I pulled this one just because we need to approve every month to have virtual meetings, and I think it'd be good just to vote on this in public for the record. It's pretty standard. We've been doing this the last few months or throughout the entire pandemic. So if you believe that we should still be having hybrid meetings, then I think it'd be appropriate to vote yes on this item. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing and seeing none. President Garcia, roll call vote, please.
Student trustee Olson,
Yes.
trustee Wilson, trustee Gonzalez,
Aye.
trustee Yant,
Yes.
trustee Stefan,
Aye.
trustee Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. And do I have a motion to approve item 11.02 as presented?
So move.
Okay, we have a motion from trustee Stefan and a second from trustee Wilson. Any discussion?
Is this where we
This is
hear?
where the presentation comes in.
Okay.
Good morning, Vice President Vermont.
Good morning, Chair, trustees, and President Garcia, and all of our esteemed guests. We are bringing this item back to you. Can we go to the next slide, please? And I'll just briefly go over, this is the things that you've seen before. What we're trying to accomplish is really to provide broadband service to unserved communities in the East Valley right now. And I want to stress that this is actually, it is an internet connection, so it's a full internet service. And it builds onto an existing network that's been built out from the Central Valley all the way up into 29 Palms. Next slide, please. And again, the primary purpose is to be able to get coverage and access to students out in the East Valley, where there is no connection currently through Coachella, Mechathermal, North Shore, Oasis, and Salton City. And next slide, please. So the benefits of it is really, it's a much stronger signal than hotspots. It has a lot greater bandwidth and speed. The equipment that the students would use to connect with is commercial grade equipment, so it's a lot more robust and reliable. It's much more complete coverage. Currently, with a Wi-Fi hotspot, you need to be within about 3 miles of a tower. The equipment can reach as far as 10 miles. And the cost is quite a bit less on a per user per month basis, where we would pay $332 a month versus right now we're paying $30.56 cents for each hotspot that we have. There's no data caps or limits with that. The equipment that you can see here, again, you can see it's not your average garden variety. The indoor units are for students who live within 3 miles or live in a house that is a regular construction. Sometimes you get houses that are cinder block or cement that create challenges, and so they would get an outdoor connection antenna to be able to boost that signal and make sure that they have reliable speed up to 10 miles away from a tower. Next slide, please. And the main thing, again, what you can see here is just the coverage. Right now, currently there's no coverage south of Indio, and our students don't have access to any of the coverage that's already there currently. Next slide, please. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the vendor partner, Pacific Lightwave. They are a long-standing COD vendor. They supply our link to Mechathermal campus and have for years. They provide our signal to PACE, as well as KCOD from the beginning. They stood up all the equipment. We actually own that particular piece. And they also provide the signal out to and internet connection to temporary Palm Springs campus. In the past, we also used them for the Indio until we got a dedicated fiber line out to that. So the benefits of having a service provider to partner with is that they manage all of the technical aspects of this, all of the engineering, the network build out. They have access to frequencies that we wouldn't have if we tried to take this on ourselves. They are responsible for 24/7 connection monitoring and service outages and all of that. They also would handle all the distribution and installation of end user equipment. And you can see they're pretty established in the valley out here. You can see the list of partial customers out here, partial list, and so they're very well established in the community. Next slide, please. And then again, back to the contract, there's 2 pieces on this. One is to provide the network. And then right now we're looking at wireless modems for about 1,000 students. That's the area where we're trying to really hone in on the need, and it's difficult because the data, sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And the structure of the contract is sole source. This is essentially a utility, so it's like working with Southern California Edison or IID. They have ownership rights of the frequencies in the valley. And so we rely on them just like any other utility, so it'd be very similar to any other type like that. And that's what I have for you.
Thank you, Vice President Ramon. Is there any questions from the board?
I have a comment, Mr. President, if I may.
Sure, go ahead,
Just
Trustee
wanted
Gonzalez.
to say thank you to President Dr. Garcia for working with staff and providing the clarification that we had asked for. This has a lot of information that we didn't have before. So for me, it would be very comfortable now for me to cast a vote. So I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you. Thank you, Vice President Vermont, for.
Thank you.
Trustee Perez.
Yes, Trustee Young, go ahead.
A question for Vice President Ramond, and I'm asking out of ignorance. What is the download speed of this system for the individual user?
Well, the service that we requested is 25 down and 3 up, if that means anything to you, because I'm not real techie on that. But that meets the definition for broadband. The thing about this is that this is scalable. So in other words, if we run into bottlenecks where it's not enough, it can be turned up. And it is not capped, or they don't throttle it back like they do with the wireless modems. Even though we pay for unlimited data, after a while they throttle it back on a monthly basis. And this isn't subject to any of that sort of throttling or limitation.
And how would this compare to providing subscriptions from satellite internet for 1,000 students?
That I'm not sure. I would have to get back to you on that and provide that information.
And of course, like, you're the expert, I'm not, but I was looking at one satellite internet provider, and even buying subscriptions for 1,000 students for 2 years at full price might be less expensive, but I'm just asking for the comparison.
We recently did a broadband study, and the rates that we saw were pretty considerable for those. That's why it's prohibitive for most families to utilize the satellite providers.
What I'm suggesting, if we buy that subscription.
Yeah, I'd have to gather information on that and get back to you on that.
Was that considered as a possibility?
I think as we've looked at all the others, no, we didn't really consider that as a viable because it's subject to a lot of issues. I've heard people who've had it that have had problems with especially the uploads. So when they're trying to participate in Zooms, and it's also more subjective to weather conditions and other issues like that. And I'm trying to remember from my broadband, from the feasibility study that we did, that a lot of those services, you know, again, we're paying about $30 a month for the Wi-Fi hotspots, and my recollection is that was significantly more per month from that. So it wasn't really anything that we felt was a viable alternative.
Thank you.
John, I have a couple of questions. Through this partnership, would we be the owners of the network? Does that make sense? Like, is there an opportunity for us to own the network and potentially be the distributors of that network for other, I guess, entities to contract through us to provide that internet service?
For that particular technology, no, because they own the airwave rights to that, or the frequency rights. It's a lot like any other utility where they're granted certain service areas. So there are public bands that are available, but they're much more crowded. They're not as reliable for speed, and the coverage is not as good. That's more limited, like the current 3-mile radius of most. That's why we need the commercial provider to have the higher level. So again, it's not that different from a lot of utilities. You know, for example, one of our constraints out at Mecca Thermal is sewer, and until they bring sewer out, we really can't do it because we would be required to build that out ourselves all the way through, and that's just not something that we can contemplate.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no more questions, no more discussion, go ahead, Erin.
Thank you. I think this would be a great step to take for students, and I know there are other options that have been brought up, but it still looks like this is the best one, especially as we still have a lot of virtual classes and homework. Internet access is a huge part of that. And in the east side of the valley, that's a huge issue right now. I think this would be a great step. Thank you.
If I may add to that, Mr. President, I do want to appreciate Student Trustee Olson for her comments. And yes, on that end of the valley, obviously, connectivity is a big issue. I think anyone watching or students should know that they're not gonna have equal to like, FiOS or extremely high-speed internet, but I think at this point, Dr. Garcia and her team have done a lot of work. I know that they have taken a lot of the suggestions that Trustee Jot and myself, and the questions that we've had. And I think short-term, as I'm seeing this and it's only a 2-year, I think that will allow a significant amount of time to then be able to partner with the local school districts. And I know CVAG also has a plan in the works, that everything is in the planning stage. So this is almost like, we're almost constricted to the only option, right? Vice President Vermont, because there really isn't a lot of service out there. I have a lot of family members that live out in North Shore area, just the other side of the sea, but even the satellite service, I mean, some of them have the means to invest into satellites and all that, and even then they're not, receiving great service. So there's not a whole lot of options, and I think as long as we can at least provide something, for now, since we've looked into everything else. But again, I do want to appreciate that staff took the time to take our recommendations to heart and do the research. So I think.
And just to clarify on the contract, the contract as it's written provides the first year of first year of service, monthly service. And then after that, we don't have any long-term contracts that we're locked into. It's month to month, and if it just, so we can carry it into the future on a month to month. And, again, I do see it as a bridge technology until some of the infrastructure gets built out, but that could be years.
Let's hope not, but.
I know.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Trustee Gonzalez. Okay, if there's no more discussion or questions, I think oh, sorry about that, Go ahead.
Even in my area where I teach and also where I live, we have internet problems constantly. And we have to have something at least in place for our students out there. And I think that.
Trustee Stefan, sorry to interrupt. Trustee Stefan, can we get your mic on?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That better? Even where I live, we have internet connection problems and where I work in Indio. And I just want to say that, we have to do something to service our students that are in the eastern end of the valley, the southeast end of the valley there, and make sure that they have access to the college. Access has always been a main concern of mine. And with technology, it's extremely, extremely important that they have this. This, I think, is the most viable option that we have available to us today. And I'm very glad, I hope that we'll be moving forward with this. And I want to thank leadership and the president and the team for doing the research on this, because this is what we needed to know so that we could move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Stefan. Yeah, this will be a great benefit to many of my constituents in my district. If there's no more discussion or questions, Dr. Garcia, we think we're ready for a roll call vote.
Student Trustee Olson,
Yes.
Trustee Wilson, Trustee Gonzalez,
Aye.
Trustee Yant,
Yes.
Trustee Stefan,
Aye.
Trustee Perez.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, and thank you, Vice President Ramon, for all your great work on this. Moving on to action item 14.1, the Science Building Renovation Project Schematic Design. Do I have a motion to approve the item 14.01 as presented?
So move.
Can I get a second? Okay, we have a motion from Trustee Stefan and a second from Trustee Wilson. At this time, I would like to invite Mac McGinnis, Program Manager of the Bond Office, and Ms. Deborah Shepley, Principal of Gensler Architects, to please share their presentation. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Matching funds.
Check.
The science building hasn't been renovated for a number of years, so it's badly needed. The furniture, equipment, and furniture and storage and all of that. So I'm going to turn this over to Deborah now. She's with Gensler, and she is the architect leading this effort for Gensler.
Good morning, Chair, Dr. Garcia, and trustees. It's a pleasure to be here today to talk about this very, very important project. And before I begin, I want to congratulate you for receiving state funding for this project. Whoops. Thank you. I want to congratulate you for receiving the funding to make this important project happen, to renovate your science labs with the very, very important instruction that's happening within it. What I have in this presentation is an outline of the schematic design development that's happened to date. And we'll go through with each of these elements to highlight how each of them conforms to the parameters that were established in the final project proposal, or the FPP, that was submitted to the state chancellors just a year ago. That was the basis and the foundation for this project being funded. So we had the parameters to work with, and we worked very, very closely with the user group that was assigned to make sure that the project could meet the program and the goals of the user group. And the user group included Dean Holman, faculty and staff, and there were many, many discussions about all the details that are needed to make this project a success. So we'll begin with the site plan. And this campus plan, you'll recognize, of course, it was part of the documents that was submitted to the state initially, identifying the project within the campus core. And a zoom into the site plan and the area of the project highlights that the project includes the renovation of the science building along with the associated site work to reach the accessible restrooms in the math building, as well as the accessible parking to the north. So that's the entire project scope, but we're primarily focused on the science building itself. And in thinking about the design, it was about looking back. This building has been here for many, many years, but looking back about 50 years, and at the same time looking forward to the next 50 years. And creating a building that can meet your goals now, but also can be flexible and adaptable to support your needs into the future. And the shift, as we spoke about during the development of the FPP, to shift away from separate disciplines of science in separate spaces towards more of a convergence of science in a flexible and adaptable instructional learning environment that really, really can work with you over the years. So I'll go into the schematic floor plan and begin first with this color block diagram. So this is a very simple diagram, and it's an important one because it includes the allocation of space within the building. And in this diagram in particular conforms to the parameters for the State Chancellor's Office. And it's critical to conform to what has been approved, because if there are shifts or variations that are too large, it could result in delays or potential loss of funding. So we're following this very closely, but this is a very simple diagram. On the next plan, you see the detail that describes how each of those spaces will be used, designation of furniture, layout, equipment, et cetera, and each of the labs in the space. So there are 6 labs. They're organized around the perimeter, and they're organized around a shared lab services area. The offices are grouped together, and this is to support collaboration. And then I'd like to move into each one just briefly to highlight some of the details about each of these labs. So each lab is accessed from the exterior. There's 2 doors. And the arrangement of the labs are organized very similarly. So there's a teaching lab on one side, there's equipment and storage around the perimeter, and these student benches are in the center. So this is the diagram or the organization for each of the labs. This one in particular is for organic chemistry, and it connects to an instrument room, which is really important for that discipline. So here's the chemistry lab diagram, similar diagram and organization, but there are less fume hoods in this space. You can see again the entry, the teaching wall, and the student benches in the center. The biology classes it's a similar diagram, but we've been discussing with the user group a degree of flexibility. So the student benches in the middle are movable. They won't be moved that often. They're actually fixed to the floor, but they have the potential to be moved or rearranged in case a different discipline or different type of arrangement is desired in the future. So here's another biology diagram, very similar. You can see the similar benches in the center. Moving forward to the Microbiology Lab Diagram, a little different arrangement. Each one is customized to the specific equipment and needs, again, that we've discussed in many, many detailed conversations with the user group. I'm trying to click and it's not clicking. Okay, and here's a Geology Lab Diagram, also a similar organization. This one in particular has more storage for the unique needs that geology needs with all of the rocks. But again, a similar diagram, and a number of different disciplines could actually be taught in this room as well. So here's that shared lab services area that's in the middle of the building. And it does connect to all of the labs you see with all the green arrows. And what's great about this space that it promotes the sharing of resources, of equipment. There's a lot of crossover. It maximizes flexibility, and it builds community. So there'll be a lot of interaction that happens in that space. And the last part of the plan I like to highlight are the offices. So they are grouped together. There's daylight into each with an exterior door. And they're aggregated again to support collaboration amongst the faculty and staff. So here's the overall schematic floor plan once again, with all the detail just described. There's a lot of detail within this that we're working on closely with the user group as we develop this further. So here's an early schematic design elevation of the building. And you'll see that the design is aligning very nicely. It honors and respects the mid-century architectural style of your campus core buildings. So it's very important to do that. So it works within the structure and the arrangement of the entrances and the windows and the patterns. This all will blend in beautifully with your existing campus core as it does now, but it will continue to do so in the future. And then this is a section through the building where you can see the arcades on either side that remain. They lead directly into the instructional labs. And then on the inside are the teaching walls. So a very simple and diagrammatic section that we're developing further. So that's a summary of the schematic design package. And our next steps are outlined on the last slide, which is basically the overall schedule with all the meetings that are highlighted with the user group, with the presentations that have taken place. And the next milestone is submitting the preliminary plan package to the State Chancellor's office in the middle of January, which is a very important milestone. And it will allow the project to keep moving forward on the schedule that's been developed and approved. Thank you very much.
So that concludes our presentation for the science building. We can field any questions you might have.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. Do we have any questions from the governing board? Trustee Stefan?
Yes, looking at the chemistry lab and the organic chemistry lab, I believe those things with the little circles in them, are those the hooded vents?
Yes, they are.
Okay, and there's more in the organic chemistry because I assume there's more chance of needing that.
That's correct.
Also, is there a facility for students to be washed in case there is a spillage?
Yes.
In each of these areas? Could you point that out? It's difficult to figure out where that is.
Yeah, there is a lot of detail in those plans. There is an eye wash
Yeah.
station and another washing station as well, and there's sinks in the room. So all of that is included.
Okay, but could you point it out on those diagrams if you go back to those?
We go to back to the, am I controlling this? To the organic chemistry. I can do my best.
Where's organic chemistry?
There's two sinks here, this
Oh,
one.
okay, yeah.
And one over here.
Okay, and that's for, oh, there's the shower area, okay.
There's a safety shower in that spot as well, and there's one in the
And there's one in
instrument
the
room
other
as well.
Okay, and then for the chemistry room, we have the same safety?
There's a safety
There's a
shower by the
safety
door
shower,
at the bottom
okay.
left, and there's also a sink
I
as
don't
well.
have my reading glasses on, I apologize.
That's okay.
And there's the sink, okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item? No? Hearing, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to item 15.01, human resources.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Before you proceed, I do need you to.
Oh, I'm
take
sorry. I
action.
apologize for that. Thank you, Mr. McGinnis and Ms. Shipley. Dr. Garcia, can you call a roll call vote, please?
Student trustee Olson,
Yes.
trustee Wilson. Yes. Trustee Gonzalez,
Aye.
trustee Yant,
Yes.
trustee Stefan,
Aye.
trustee Pettis.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Now we're moving on to action item 15.01, human resources. Employment agreement for Vice President, Human Resources and Employee Relations. Do I have a motion to approve item 15.01 as presented?
So move.
Okay, we have a motion from trustee Stefan. Do I have a second? We have a second from trustee Wilson. Any discussion? Okay, hearing and seeing none. President Garcia, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Student trustee Olson,
Yes.
trustee Wilson. Yes. Trustee Gonzalez,
Aye.
trustee Yant,
Yes.
trustee Stefan,
Aye.
trustee Pettis.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
Action item 16.01, administrative services, budget revisions. Do I have a motion to approve item 16.01 as presented? Okay, we have a motion from trustee Wilson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from trustee Stefan. Any discussion? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Roll call vote, President Garcia.
Student trustee Olson,
Yes.
trustee Wilson. Yes. Trustee Gonzalez,
Aye.
trustee Yant,
Yes.
trustee Stefan,
Aye.
trustee Pettis.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Item number 16.02, resolution number 121721-2, adoption of wire transfer payments. Do I have a motion to approve item 16.02 as presented?
So move.
Okay, we have a motion from trustee Stefan, a second from trustee Wilson. Any discussion?
Could we have just a short explanation on that? Brief, very brief.
VP Ramont, please.
Yes, thank you. What this is a blanket resolution to put in place. The county is requiring us now, if we want to do any wired payments, to have a resolution in place approving that. That's kind of a new thing for them. And we're going to start bringing it back every July on an annual basis. And the only time we don't do a lot of wires, but we do tend to do wires for large contracts or land purchases. Sometimes it's just part of the purchase agreement requirements and things like that. We've done all of these in the past and have not been required to this point, but the county is asking for this blanket resolution to be in place. Again, it'll come back to you annually.
You good?
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Trust. Thank you, VP Ramont. Dr. Garcia, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Student trustee Olson,
Yes.
trustee Wilson. Trustee Gonzalez,
Aye.
trustee Yant,
Yes.
trustee Stefan,
Aye.
trustee Pettis.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item number 16.03, resolution number 121721-3, authorized signatures. Do I have a motion to approve item 16.03 as presented?
So move.
We have a motion by trustee Stefan. Can I get a second? Second by trustee Wilson. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote, President Garcia.
Student trustee Olson,
Yes.
trustee Wilson, trustee Gonzalez,
Aye.
trustee Yant,
Yes.
trustee Stefan,
Aye.
trustee Perez.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Item number 16.04, notice of intent to award a contract of bid package number 4398E0500 Indio CDC demolition and hazmat services for the Indio Child Development Center hazmat demolition project. Do I have a motion to approve item 16.04 as presented?
So move.
We have a motion from trustee Stefan. Is there a second? I'll go ahead and second. Any discussion?
I just want to say I'm glad that we're finally going to start movement on this. They really need to have that child development center out there, many of our students.
Definitely. President Garcia, roll call vote, please.
Student trustee Olson, trustee Wilson, trustee Gonzalez,
Aye.
trustee Yant,
Yes.
trustee Stefan,
Aye.
trustee Perez.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Moving on to item number 17, information. 17.01, approved return to campus proposals. These are brought to the board today as information items. Are there any questions from the board related to these information items? No, hearing and seeing none. Moving on to item 17.02, administrative procedures. This is brought to the board today as an information item. Is there any questions from the board related to this informational item? Hearing and seeing none. Moving on to item number 18, information, administrative services. 18.01, costs of bond sale respecting Desert Community College District's general obligation bonds election of 2016, Series 2021 A1, and Desert Community College District's general obligation bonds election of 2016, Series 2021 A2, federally taxable, together the series of 2021 bonds. This is brought to the board today as an information item. Are there any questions from the board related to this information item? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Item number 19, study sessions, 19.01, construction update. I would like to reintroduce Mr. Mac McGinnis and Dr. Jessica Anders to present this item. Please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Board of Trustees, Dr. Garcia, Executive Cabinet, and guests. Mac and I are pleased to be able to provide you with an update today on our expansion opportunities. And I think I will need some help advancing. There we go. Before we delve into the construction projects, though, it's important that we take a moment and reinforce and express that expansion is directly related to the college's commitment to fulfill our mission of providing excellent educational programs and opportunities that contribute to the vitality of our community. Our mission is to ensure access to education and services across the entire Coachella Valley, and this commitment and alignment to our mission has not wavered in our more than 60 years. And with that, Mac will give us an overview of our planning phases.
As most of us know, there are several steps in the planning process, from feasibility through the design process, programming, and schematic design, design development, construction drawings. Then the project is typically submitted to the Division of State Architect, what we call DSA. It goes into bidding, and then construction begins. So each one of these phases take a certain amount of time, and it typically takes just from the programming standpoint to the construction of bid begins about a year and a half. About a year of design work and about 6 months to 9 months with DSA for review. Feasibility study outline. I wanted to talk about that a bit. What is a feasibility study outline? So typically there's a executive summary that's associated with this, talking, giving a description of the project, talking about community needs and proposed solutions, Site review talks about, location and capacity, outreach and traffic and transit and community input. A needs assessment talks about, demographics, labor market, enrollment potentials, those items. A program of study anticipates enrollment and signature programs, student support services, and community engagement. It's always important to keep the community informed and engaged in a project. And then the financing model, this is how we talk about things like how will the project sustain itself over time. And so, it's project sequencing, timeline, benchmarks, capital construction, annual operating costs. Those are things that we want to take a look at, cost of ownership for these projects moving forward. And then conclusions and recommendations that come out of that study.
And so for today, what we'd like to do is walk you through some of our highlighted projects that are completed, approved, and in process, and in process. And we'll start with our highlights of our completed projects. And moving into our Mechathermal campus, which opened in 2009. And this campus ensures that residents in Mechathermal and the surrounding areas have access to quality higher education programs and facilities. Where our current class offerings, we had expanded to meet different identified needs. We're evaluating our space utilization out there. And we're also partnering with Coachella Valley Unified School District to enhance our educational opportunities and pathways for our high school students. And the timeline for this campus, construction started in the summer of 2008. And again, as mentioned, we opened in 2009. We then had an expansion in 2016 and opened the Mary Regan Observatory space in 2018. And again, just some takeaways for the Mechathermal campus is we're offering core specialized general education courses. We have the access to the observatory, and with the addition of multidisciplinary wet labs, as well as a computer classroom, it's allowed us to expand course offerings. And then for our Desert Hot Springs campus, this opened in 2016, and it provides our West Valley students with convenient access to classes and student support services. We provide such things as adult basic education, credit general education classes, as well as English as a second language non-credit courses. And we've been able to expand our access for student support services in this area as well. And thanks to some innovative opportunities from Dean Phillips and the counselors in her area, we've piloted some pretty innovative general education certificate pathways. So we're allowing, or we've created a schedule that will allow our students to create all general education courses within an identified period of time, which is about 2 years. And we've partnered that with the temporary Palm Springs campus to enhance those opportunities further. So the scheduling we're starting to get very creative with to allow more opportunities for students to complete. And some of the, again, facts for Desert Hot Springs, we serve our local high school students there. We have a partnership with them being so close in proximity. We're able to do dual concurrent evening classes. Through industry recommendations, we've been able to expand our cannabis industry courses through our PACE program at that site. And we also, again, have our expanded student support services. Our temporary Palm Springs campus opened in 2018. And again, that ensures continued access across the valley is for student support services and for courses. Right now, we have, again, thanks to our deans and our instructional deans and counseling dean, we were able to start a pathway for general education and film. And we've also aligned these programs with what will be the pillar or signature programs at the permanent Palm Springs campus. So we're starting to build capacity there. It offers a convenient location for students to access classes and services. It allowed us to expand vital support services. And we are also hosting our TRIO educational talent search program there. So that has increased our access for our middle school students. Now moving into our approved and in-process projects, Mac will walk us through the athletics and field stadium project.
Yeah, so on the Palm Desert campus, we have in design right now, it's actually in design development, a new athletic stadium and realigned fields project. And this will modernize and improve athletic facilities to benefit students, spectators, and the community. The current status now is the new athletic stadium and playing fields project enhancements are in the, actually, by now, we've completed the schematic design phase, and we're now going into the design development on that. Also, part of the ongoing projects now is the science project that we just talked about. That's another one that's in the process. The timeline for the athletic stadium and fields project is there was a feasibility study completed in 2020. In 21, design development began. The design process will take place in 2022. We will submit that project to DSA. And in 23, construction will begin and complete the project in 24. Some of the key facts about this project is that, it serves all the college of the desert students, in addition with our local community. Replaces existing stadium with a 20,000 square foot facility, which includes a lot of things like the locker room and team rooms. It improves the football and soccer field lighting, and it creates a landscape and parking area, improves celebration and event spaces in the central location. Some of you know that we typically hold graduation out on the football field, and this is going to make that effort a lot nicer for everyone. We actually hold the fireworks show out there as well, so it's going to be a really nice facility. Restrooms, we have spaces for food trucks, so there'll be food out there. It should be a very nice facility. So financial overview. So spent today is about 1.5 million. Total project budget is about 27.5. So we are, we've got about 25.9 left. Again, we're in design development moving forward. We don't see, we're not anticipating any cost overruns on this so far, but market conditions can change, and so.
Thank you, Mac. And moving into our Indio expansion, renovation, and childcare development project, both of these projects have been approved by DSA, and so they are moving forward. We anticipate construction beginning in the spring 2022 term, and they are, as I said, advancing in the bidding process. And so the original new Indio campus opened in 2014 and was pretty much at capacity upon opening, and so through our Measure CC, we were able to start our planning in 2018 for the new campus. And then our construction plans were reevaluated in 2020 due to COVID. We took that opportunity to pause that project to say, what can we do to make this building the best that it can be for the future? We eliminated high touch point surfaces and areas, looking at things that could be automated, again, as a result of the pandemic to see how we can best prepare for the future. Absolutely,
This
please.
is the first project that we wanted to see what would a post-pandemic campus look like. So that effort took place, and we identified a number of things, like you said, touchless things, door openings, how you orient spaces and things like that. So it was a very detailed effort, and I think moving forward, we could apply some of those things learned to other projects as well.
Thank you, Mac. And as stated, DSA has approved these projects in November and December. We're starting construction in spring. We anticipate all projects to be completed by fall of '24. And some of the key components to this is, again, we were at capacity when we opened, and so this will allow us to more than double our opportunities for students in Indio. It adds classroom and student support spaces. The existing building does not have a dining facility, so this will allow students to have access to food services. It also extends our sticking spaces, which as we move into a kind of post-pandemic era, where we'll have more hybrid classes, more high flex classes, it's important to have spaces for students to stick, as they call them, their sticking spaces. And for our financial overview, we've spent about 8.3 million of the identified 67.5 million, and for the expansion and renovation, and for the Child Development Center, 3 million of the 22. And it's important to note that the expansion and renovation are coupled together for this project because they have gone together as a joint endeavor. And then moving into Coachella, we are going to be offering accessible educational opportunities to our students in the farther eastern end of the Coachella Valley. We are currently offering classes at the new Coachella Library, but we do not have any support services. So if students need to access financial aid, if they need to meet with a counselor, a tutor, they would have to come. The closest campus for them would be our Indio campus right now that's offering that. And so what this is allowing us to do is in the old Coachella Library, we'll be adding a student support service space that is slated to hopefully open in January. And then after that, we have that space for about a year. We will transition over to the Chelsea property. And again, that will be just for student support services. Our classes will continue to be offered in the new Coachella Library. And that's part of our evening college program that we can maybe advance on. So in spring of 2019, we started offering English as a second language non-credit classes in the new library. And then fall 2020, we were able to pilot our evening college program, which is a partnership through the Coachella Valley Adult School and the city of Coachella with the library space. And what this is thanks again to Dean Phillips and her counseling team, created the General Education Certificate, where students in this program can complete all GE requirements in 2 years, have a guaranteed schedule and dedicated student support services. And so again, starting in 2022, we'll have services and then move into 23 in the new space. And we've covered those key facts. And so now we'll move into our in-process projects, and Mac will start us off with Roadrunner Motors.
So Roadrunner Motors currently is identified in Cathedral City. But this project will provide state-of-the-art automotive technology training and to replace the facility here on the Palm Desert campus, lovingly known as the Diesel Mechanics Building. So right now, the current status is the Cathedral City site requires extensive grading improvements. There are a number of things that this site is requiring that has taken the project cost way above and beyond the estimated cost to begin with. And so right now, the district is exploring alternative site options for that. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. Just the timeline for Roadrunner Motors is the design process began in 2019. In summer of 21, the cost overruns were identified. And now, as we move into spring, we're going to be looking at alternative locations recommendations. So the cost overruns happened after we got the architect on board, and got the civil engineer on board, and the civil engineer starts doing their studies about the land, and they look at topography, they look at stormwater runoff, they look at, how do you build a structure on this property? It's sloping, so there's a lot of challenges with this site that's going to require extensive retaining walls, some up to 15 feet tall, almost all around the site. And the site has gotten so small now, part of the acreage was a hill that we can't really do anything with. We have a 72-inch storm drain coming across the back of the property with a 30-foot easement there, so we can't, so there's just a lot of challenges that are popping up that is going to make it a very expensive site to build on. So the decision was made to pause this to maybe take a look at some other sites that might be a lot more cost-effective. And obviously, the site that's there is an option, but, can we find something more cost-effective? And then we have here the Board of Trustees will select a final location in an open meeting. So the financial overview is, to date, we've spent about $4.8 million. And in that dollar amount, in all of these dollar amounts, the land is included. If there was land purchase, it was included in there. So we have about 18 million remaining in the budget, about 79%, to move forward with this project at that location or a new location. Palm Springs Development Project, the charge here is to create a new facility and programs to serve the West Valley students. And there were a number of efforts put forth as far as master planning and site planning. We went through architect selection to actually design the project. The project was in design, and so there was a change, obviously, as far as, revisiting, is this the right direction to go in? Maybe we want to add some new programs or different programs. So right now, we're collecting data and analyzing that data as we move forward. We're about 30% of the schematic design stage was complete before we paused it. And then in planning scenarios, we have about 10 different planning scenarios that were submitted to take a look at, and we're focusing in on the ones that we think will help us move forward in a phase one of the project. So, Palm Springs planning phase. So you see at the top here, in red is not started, in gold is in progress, and green is completed. So again, we show the feasibility study in progress. I think what we want to do is take the information that we found and probably validate that to make sure that it is applicable going forward. It was done, 5 years ago, and things change. So we want to at least validate that, maybe even update it.
And Mac, if I may, one of the parts that's a great point about updating the data, one data element that we did not have before with this master plan is the updated census data. And so now that we have updated census data, that will help us better understand our student demographic data as well as some of our labor market indicators. It will also allow us the opportunity to review the data for, as I said, the labor market, because 2 years ago, we have to remember a lot has happened with the pandemic. And so it has given us this opportunity to say, what else can we add to this programming? What else makes sense to serve our community? So it's evaluating all opportunities that are available to us with the new data, and as well as validating, as Max said, the data that was already collected.
Right. So the planning phase is the same as the other ones. You go through schematic design and the design process, and then construction begins. And that process usually takes, again, 1.5 years. However, if we're about 30% schematic design, depending on how it lays out once we validate all of these things, it's going to take about 1 year of design work still to happen, and about probably 9 months at DSA. So the folks in Palm Springs or anyone else is complaining about a shovel not hitting the ground, a shovel typically doesn't hit the ground for 1.5 years anyway. So I'm just saying, we have to get through this process before we can start putting the shovel in the ground. The timeline for this, again, it started about 2018 on the mall property. In February 18, we completed a temporary campus on Barristo, just west of the mall. And then fall of 19, permanent campus planning begins. And then design began in 2020. And by summer of 22, again, we're going to assess the information we have and review it and see if it needs updating, modifying, changing before we move forward on that. And then the financial model too, we have to take a look at that as well. And so in fall of 22, we will update the timeline once we understand what the project is moving forward. And then the construction start and completion will be updated as well at that point. So this is a classroom learning, hands-on technical training, and industrial partnerships. So we're looking at, originally we were looking at hospitality and culinary arts, digital arts and media, Center for Excellence in Healthcare Education, Sustainable Technologies, and architecture programming partnership with Cal Poly Pomona. So again, we need to evaluate these programs, make sure they're still relevant today. And then current project status, again, is about 30% schematic design. And so we're going to, again, consider additional programs and majors. So and we're reviewing some phasing scenarios for this project. The money here spent to date, again, it includes the property, which was about 22 million was property costs. And so we have about $302 million remaining on this project. Again, we need to review the project as it moves forward and see where we fall budget-wise once it's identified.
And in addition to the 22.5 million that contributed to the 43 million in expenditures, there was also demolition costs that were associated with removing the old mall site. And so that is also where some of those expenses came into play, as well as the acquisition of the real estate around the surrounding areas. And so that came into play in that expenditure as well.
And the Jack in the Box on the corner there, so. Okay.
I'm trying. So as far as our next steps for Roadrunner Motors, again, it is the college's goal to provide at least 3 options to the Board of Trustees, hopefully within the spring 2022 term. And that will include the existing site as it was planned, another option potentially in Cathedral City, and options elsewhere throughout the valley. And we are also then for our Palm Springs campus, as we mentioned, our next steps are to finalize and complete a feasibility study based on what we have and what we are potentially still needing to collect. And then we will entertain any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Enders, and thank you, Mr. McGinnis. I'm sure the board has some questions, so who would like to go first? Trustee Stefan?
Yes, and I don't know if you can answer the question or if it'll have to go on for a future agenda item, but I know the observatory over in Mechathermal campus was a great addition. Talking to the gentleman that donated that to the campus as he was in the process of doing that, he was very eager to have the children at Coachella Valley Unified School District be able to participate virtually with that observatory and possibly even have connections with NASA. Do you know if any of that has been able to happen at this time, or maybe we can have an update on how we are utilizing that observatory?
I would be happy to get you an update on that for the future.
That was the first question I had, or the first concern, because I know that was of great importance to him. He grew up and had that opportunity as a young child, and he wanted the children out there to have that opportunity. So the other question I have is with regard to the Indio campus. I remember when we opened the doors, we were at capacity and even slightly above. With the expansion and the renovation in the Child Development Center, will we, when we open the doors, again be at capacity or above?
Hopefully.
I hope so. that is
because I mean that's a big concern when we open it and the public thinks that we didn't build it big enough. We should have built it bigger. But the problem we have is we can only build it for what it is when we start. So I'm wondering if when we open those doors, are we already going to be at our limit? Do you know if we have how much we've exceeded what we have the capacity for
the
now?
The pandemic has really had us kind of question our enrollment numbers. As you know, we are in an enrollment decline right now. And so it's hard to say for when we transition out of the pandemic where exactly we'll be in that. Obviously, our goal is to get, at the very least by next fall, our enrollment increased to 10%. And so we will continue to strive to get those enrollment numbers back up. But in terms of day one in 2024, that would, from where we're at right now with our projections, it would be a challenge to be at capacity for where we're at right now with our
for when we
enrollment
open.
for when we open in 2024.
But right now, we're still exceeded the capacity, I'm assuming, where we should be over there? Do we have more than
Well, again,
capacity?
with courses being offered online, predominantly, we only had about 10% of course offerings in face-to-face. And so the way that data is tracked for online versus in person,
different.
we wouldn't be able to say if we're at capacity or not for that piece.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Trustee Perez.
Yes, Trustee Young, go ahead.
Mac, good to see you. You doing okay?
Yeah, you're doing good. Thank you.
All right. Sometimes in your PowerPoint, the word feasibility is used. In another point, I see needs assessment. And there's so much confusion as to what that is. So I have a couple questions for you. So what you're talking about and what other people are talking about as it relates to Palm Springs, is this exactly the same thing that was done or is anticipated to be done for the construction in Indio, Desert Hot Springs, and Coachella, or is this anything different?
So the document we have for the Palm Springs campus was actually developed with a different campus in mind. It was a typical campus. It wasn't a CTE campus. It didn't have partnerships and all of that. There's several separated buildings. There was a library, a convention center. There were other elements in there. And today it's totally different. So the needs assessment that was performed on that campus previously, we're not sure that it's going to work with the campus that we have today. So again, that's some of the things that we have to take a look at and see if that model fits the model of the campus today. That's what we don't know.
Okay, then two questions. Was this done for Indio and Coachella?
Was it done for Indio? Yes, it was done for Indio. And Coachella, we haven't really, we haven't built anything in Coachella that's going to require. Right now, we're occupying existing spaces. So there's no other project in Coachella.
Well, should that not require a feasibility study?
To occupy an existing building?
Yes.
Well, you could do one, yeah.
Okay.
But you know, it's typically the district that produces the feasibility study. And so it will be up to the district to decide whether they want to do one or not for various projects. Now, we are doing a study on the land that's being purchased. I think it's a half a block of land that's being purchased. We're doing a due diligence on that piece of property, yes.
And if I may, Trustee Yon, add to that, when we were looking at the evening college program, it was a pilot program to be able to offer a partnership with Coachella Valley Adult School. So it was a very specific partnership designed to work collaboratively with our adult learners and help transition them, kind of make that bridge, if you will, both metaphorical and almost literal with the proximity of the buildings, to transition our adult learners into college credit courses and provide them more of like a special program. And so it's a dedicated schedule that is primarily reserved for those students in that program. But the benefit of adding the core or the student support services is to allow those students to have access to services, as well as other students who live in the Coachella or in Eastern Coachella Valley. Prior to the pandemic, or in the neighborhood of the mid to upper 40% of our students were coming from an East Valley zip code. And so this is allowing another avenue for students to have access to those services because our Mecca Thermal campus was not providing services at that time. And so it was a way to increase and backfill services.
Mac, you just said that something has changed that negates the earlier feasibility study done for Palm Springs. So what do you mean? What has changed?
Well, the feasibility study we have was based on a different type of campus. It was built on, it was a typical campus where it had programs like English, math, food service, you know, it was that type of a campus. Today, we have, something we call the accelerator, which is a huge building with multiple open spaces that are used as classrooms. The programs are different. This project was originally having a hotel, a restaurant, a convention center, culinary, so a couple of restaurants, those type of things. And this campus is, again, totally different from the original campus that was planned. Again, it was just multiple small buildings from the original design. And again, that's what that need study was based on. That model of campus, not the model we have today.
So would it be appropriate to assure people that an updated study might show that the need is even greater now than it was in the past?
It may, and that's what the purpose of what we're doing right now is to assess that data, to have that picture. It could say that the need is greater, and it could say we also have opportunities to add additional majors and programs to help support what was planned, as well as support industry needs for the future and moving beyond. A lot of why we're looking at this is because everything we're doing now, we want to plan for beyond tomorrow. And so we're looking at 10, 20, 30 years from now. And so we're using this as an opportunity to ensure that what we do put forward has all of those factors included into it.
People are telling me that they hear feasibility study and needs assessment as a way to kill the project. But what I'd like people to understand is that a properly done study that looks at how this campus is a magnet campus to bring students in for specialized programs might conclude that the need is even greater now than it was in 2018.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments, Trustee Yant?
No.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
If I may,
Trustee Gonzalez.
I want to thank you for the presentation. I think this is great to have this update and to have some numbers to look at for the community to also be able to view. I think that, definitely shows an effort. And I want to thank Dr. Garcia for her leadership in ensuring that we did have this thorough presentation as well. Just a few things that stood out for me when I look at Palm Springs and I'm listening to Trustee John and the explanation. So it appears that what was originally discussed then somehow grew, changed, right? Some additions. I had an opportunity to listen into the Bond Oversight Committee. How long has that been in place, the bond I'm assuming ever since the bond was passed? I just find it kind of interesting that all of those changes occurred and I've never heard of any conversation as far as, why did it change? How did it change? Because it also appears that that project has been dormant, for a little bit under the past president and leadership. So just some things that stood out for me that I'll have to keep in mind, since there's now this sense of urgency. I'm just trying to kind of figure it all out, right? Because I hear all the noise too, and so I'm very grateful for this. But a lot of things stand out for me like that, the changes, the sense of urgency, when this has, obviously been a conversation for a very long time. And also the Cathedral City project, again, I had an opportunity to listen in to the Bond Oversight Committee. And there was that question, right? Like, how was this property purchased when we're looking at, 70% increase in cost? And that's definitely another, great question that I'm looking at, because obviously all of these, acquisitions and decisions were made, quite some time ago, under the past president. So just these things that stand out for me. I think as a trustee, I am very pleased to know that we are doing the right thing and taking a step back and taking a look at all of this. And, it's as Trustee Stefan mentioned earlier, it's a little tough, right? To, be sitting in these roles and listening to all of this. So for me, this provides a lot of clarification on things that I already have in my mind. but I still have those questions, right? Like, there was a property that was purchased and it seems like it just has so many issues. I would think that there would have been a red flag somewhere, way back then, as to, why that property was identified. And, also the Palm Springs one. So I just, again, thank you for that. I hope that, there's a lot of folks out there watching. And I really do want to appreciate and thank the Bond Oversight Committee. And I hope they stay as active as they are right now in moving forward. I really do. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Gonzalez. Trustee Wilson, anything? No? Okay, I do have a few questions, and thank you, Dr. Enders and Mac, for the presentation. I'd like to start off with the Cathedral City Roadrunner Motors project and land acquisition. That hill has been there for forever. I can't imagine that we barely, I don't know, a few weeks ago realized that that would present a problem. Why wasn't that presented to us as a problem a couple of years ago?
We're not part of the land acquisition. We're not part of selecting sites or anything.
Sure.
I was just as concerned when I found out we got that site, because it has its own challenges. Anybody who has, could look at that and say, well, this is going to cost a lot. But that was the direction we were given, and we follow the direction of administration, obviously. We don't make these decisions. We're given those decisions. So I wish I could give you more on that, but I wasn't in that decision-making where, hey, go buy this piece of property.
I see. Okay, thank you for that, Mac. Another question regarding the feasibility study that's going on in Palm Springs. I'm very curious as to why we got bombarded with an email 2 days ago before this presentation regarding information that was withheld from us. Could you be able to provide some insight as to how that happened, or why we're in this position now? I believe that Dr. Garcia alluded to asking for that information several times and it not being available to us, and now all of a sudden here it is.
Yeah. So John at Terra Nova had performed this study. And the study, again, was on not this campus today, but it was a campus in 2016, the other one I was describing to you. And so I worked with him on a master plan document and through the architecture of the buildings only. And then he went somewhere else, or was directed somewhere else, because he wasn't directed by us, directed somebody else to take a look at these other things, which is now the needs assessment part. So we weren't part of that because we don't have that information. Our office doesn't have that information. We can't provide any of that. So when that document was completed, I can't even tell you when it was completed because it wasn't sent to us. We later got a copy of that, from what I understand. We got a copy of that and we filed it. But I'm thinking master plan. I didn't know there was a needs assessment in it, and I didn't go look at it because it was a dead project. It was dead. And it was based on that different campus.
I see. Is there any, because I got the email sent to me, any indication of who gave that person direction to, I guess, go look for this document? Do we know where that may have come from?
What he said to me, because I talked to him, I said, why did you send this? How did this happen? He said he was listening to one of the presentations that was given, Citizens Oversight, I think, that presentation. And so he said, hey, I remembered this document that I did, so I sent it to the district thinking it might help.
I see. Okay. Thank you for that explanation, Mac. It's very helpful. I have a question regarding, I guess, more questions regarding the feasibility. It's a two-part question. Why was it the feasibility study, as we know and understand, completed for the project, for the athletic stadium fields project in 2020, but not completed in that same way 2 years ago, 2018? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the district asked for that feasibility study to be done. And typically, on the feasibility studies, a firm like ours, we don't do a feasibility study. It's usually the district hires somebody to do it, okay? And so Dr. Annabelle Neary, who asked for that, got that feasibility study going.
So it's safe to say that there was, for the Prop Springs project, there was probably not a previous, what we know as a feasibility study requested by the district.
Yeah, I don't know that there was one, no.
Okay.
I'm looking at a master plan, which talks about the campus, talks about structures, it talks about traffic, it talks about parking, it talks about circulation, it talks about those things. That part of the document, if you see the one that you were sent, it starts with item 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of that before that is the stuff that I got the architect together with, I got John Chris, so they could work through that process. All the other stuff, I had no idea he worked on that. I had no idea.
So it's safe to say that there was, I guess, some components of a feasibility study done, but not the entire feasibility study as what's supposed to be turned into DSA for approval was completed.
DSA could care less about a feasibility study, so that's not turned into DSA. A feasibility study is done to help guide district administration in making a decision to move forward with the project or not. Because there's a lot of information in there. It talks about, funding, it talks about demographics, it talks about students, it talks about programs, it talks about all of those things. And the district usually takes that information and meets with their cabinet, let's say, to decide, is this a smart move? Is this what we want to do? Do we want to go in this direction or not? So,
And that's usually general practice for, I guess, a campus of this magnitude of.
Is it general? No.
No?
No. I mean, we're managing bond programs at various community colleges throughout the state of California, and I've yet to see one ask for a feasibility study. Now, do I think it's smart? Absolutely, because then it influences you how, going forward, how much money are you going to spend? What is it going to cost us? And Dr. Garcia is talking about a total cost of ownership now. I think that's very smart as well, because building the building sometimes is easy, but how are you going to pay for it? How is it going to sustain itself over a period of time? That's the piece that's really missing as well.
And if I can add to that though, Mac, that's also a component of the feasibility study too, is understanding those finances and models. And that's what we're hoping to get for this. And that's what I meant earlier by saying what we do today will impact us in the future, because we want to ensure that it's sustainable and that it's viable. And so this gives us the opportunity to review all of that to make sure we are.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you much. Thank you for the presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. President, if I may, just real quick. Trustee Stefan, it may not be my place to respond to your question, but I can tell you, as you know, I've been an employee of CV Unified for 27, 28 years, I lost count. I didn't even know that there was an observatory there. So I can tell you that we unfortunately do not have a partnership, but I think we have a great opportunity to create one. But I do look forward to Dr. Endres providing us with an update. That was one of the thing that I noticed, and I apologize that I missed that when I originally made my comments, is I was in Desert Hot Springs over the weekend, and I was speaking with some of the residents and some of the city council members, and I don't think anyone is aware. I don't know if these courses are projected courses that are looking to take place there, because no one is aware of them. Not what I see here. And I know that it's your area, Trustee Perez, but I think Mecca Thermal too, I've heard of those projects. So I think it would be great in the future to have a presentation on what is actually, like what is our students enrolled in and actually participating in, just for clarity and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Gonzalez. If you would add that to your future agenda items of what you would like to see, I think that'd be helpful for our staff. Moving on to, we did 19.02 Pacific Light Wave Broadband Towers project during our consent agenda, so we don't need to do that. We already took care of that. Moving on to item 20, future agenda items, 20.01. Does anybody on the board have future agenda items? Student Trustee Olson.
None at this time.
Trustee Gonzalez.
I will gladly take your suggestion, Mr. President, and act ask for actual enrollment in actual courses that are active, that students are enrolled in. You know, specifically for me and trustee area 2 with Desert Hot Springs, very interested in that. And I know, I think I had also requested in the past that we review audit reports. So that's still, you know, something that I would like us to take a look at. I know we have a lot going on right now, but, you know, just want to make sure it doesn't get buried or forgotten.
Thank you, Trustee Gonzalez. And I'd like to add Area 1 to that list as well. Trustee Wilson?
Trustee Wilson, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can we get your microphone on? Thank you.
Thank you. A couple of years ago, the board approved the opportunity for a very special doctoral program for faculty. And I understand that we now have a few graduates from that program, that cohort. So perhaps in the future, we can get a presentation from them on the results of their studies. We talked about childcare today. I would like to have an update on our childcare center programs, what the status is, what they've had to go through during the pandemic and had to pivot and continue to move forward. And the last thing is, I know our foundation board member, Marge Dodge, would appreciate me making a brief announcement that the Friends of the COD Library will be holding a book sale from January 7th through the 9th at the Palm Desert Library next door. Thank you, and I want to wish everyone the happiest of holiday seasons.
Thank you, Trustee Wilson. Trustee Yant?
Nothing today.
Thank you, Trustee Yant. Trustee Stefan?
I would like to have an update on how we're utilizing the observatory, how we've utilized it in the past pre-pandemic, because I'm sure things changed during the pandemic. Also, if we could look into the enrollment in early childhood education over in the Indio area, area that's dear to my heart because it was one of my majors in college. But you know, if we could have an update on that, how many students are interested, and so that we make sure that we're going to be able to meet the needs of those students in the future, and throughout the whole east end of the valley, how many students would be interested in that program.
Thank you, Trustee Stefan. And nothing for me this month. I'd like to wish everybody a happy holiday and a happy new year. Looking forward to seeing you all next year.